Hey guys, welcome back to my channel. Today we're d- we're doing something that I've been wanting to do for a very long time. I just didn't really have a good story for it, but now I do. So let's get it. Let's get into it. Oh, and this is what if Deku was X-Virus? And if you don't know who X-Virus is, he is a creepypasta. He's a creepypasta. If you want to know more about him, just look him up. You'll find. You'll know him when you see him. But when Deku was born, he grew up. It's pretty interesting. He never. He never really. He never met his father, and his mother was a criminal, and he she would leave Deku alone for days and weeks, days to weeks alone. So he really got used to being alone till a child protective service person came in and took Deku away from his irresponsible mother, to go put him in an orphanage. And Deku was like, he was a little he was a little weird about the situation, but he also saw this as a good thing, a way he could start over, yeah. But when he got to the orphanage, and he's like, this is the perfect time to start over, socialize, turn my life around. But that never, that didn't really happen. If he tried to socialize, they'd just call him a weirdo and walk away, or all the other people, or all the other ones intimidated him, and and oh, and before you guys ask in the comments, yes, this is going to be a villain. What if? I'm finally doing one. But yes, this is a villain. What if? And before we get any further on in the story, some of the creepypastas do exist in this universe. Basically, Slenderman's gang. Basically them. So basically, all of Slenderman's gang exist in this universe. I just want to point that out ahead of time before we get to that part. Where was I? Yes, the orphanage. Yeah, basically, Deku was basically just sat in a chair and just waited. And a couple years later, around the age of 13, the people that worked there told him to go back because he was getting adopted. And Deku was a little shocked by this because, who was gonna adopt a 13-year-old boy? They usually would go for the younger and cuter kids. He was even more surprised when they pulled him up. They brought him to a very luxurious house, and a couple of days went by before he actually met his real father, bringing up some old memories from the past, some old ghosts from the past. But he met his father, his new father, and Deku learned that he was actually a scientist. He was a head scientist of something, a project, head of a science team. And also because of his work, he wasn't home that often, stirring up some old ghosts from the past for Deku. But over time, Deku actually took an affinity took interest in his father's work. And basically, his father explained what they were actually doing. They were studying power the power of viruses. And yeah, Deku very really assisted him in this in his work. And even Deku started to like tamper in it. He even came up with this serum that he would test on like rats and stuff, and it would always end up of the patient or the test subject dying. But before they would die, they would emit this noise, which sounded like their lungs were closing on themselves. And Deku really, he was like, what would a human like sound like if they were infected? But anytime he would bring this up to somebody, they would just call him sick and tell him to go get help. But one night when he was alone, like alone at home, he honestly got the idea in his head. And he went down to the basement and found his bat and conveniently a jar of rusty old nails. And he hammered a couple of nails into the bat. He looked in a drawer. He found an old gas mask and some blue welding goggles. So and he put on a black hoodie and blue jeans, and he went to the darkest neighborhood in the city that they were in, and he went to one of these went into a random house, and he killed everyone in the house with ease because of his new bat. But he saved the last one. He saved the last one. He saved one for last. And this man was completely frozen in fear. So Deku took out a syringe filled with a lethal virus and injected it into the man. And he waited for the virus to spread out through his entire body. And before the man died, he fell to the ground on his knees, grabbing his stomach, and he opened his mouth, and animal noises emitted from his mouth until he fell dead to the ground. And when he returned home, his father was standing outside, surprisingly, waiting for him. And Deku told him what he had done, thinking that, as a scientist, he would appreciate his work. But he's like, he looked in it, he was going to call the police on Deku, or the heroes on Deku. I still gotta remember that this is the MHA universe, so there are heroes. So he runs to the phone, and in the moment of him picking up the phone and about to call the police, Deku smashes his head in with his bat. And then he grabs his father's key card to the lab. He runs over to the forensics lab. He opens it, and he takes as many syringes and as many virus samples as he could and loads them all into a messenger bag type thing. And then he goes to one of the neighborhoods and just he wanted to test his new samples could do. And after that, he needed to seek refuge, and so he ran into the woods for refuge. Yeah, and while he's walking through the woods, he sees someone wearing a blue hoodie with like some sort of mask covering his face, with a pair of orange goggles, holding two axes, walking down, and Deku didn't know if he saw him, so he ducked behind a tree. But when he looked back, he was gone, and he heard the man speak. He's like, "Come out, I know you're there." And Deku came out behind the tree to come face to face with the man. And the man greeted Deku and introduced himself. "Hi, I'm Toby." And Deku wanted to say his name, wanted to say his name, but when he went to say his name, something else came out of his mouth. X-Virus. And Toby was, nice to meet you, X-Virus. Come with me. And if you don't know who Toby is, this is Tiki Toby. And Deku had finally found a friend. His blood brother. Oh, and when I say X-Virus in this story, I am addressing Deku. Just want to point that out. Oof, man. So, basically, Toby brings X-Virus to Slender to get him in the group, and he lived in the mansion with all the other creepypastas. And when let's say Toby, X-Virus, Jeff, and no. Toby, X-Virus, Masky, and Hoodie, which they're all creepypastas, are going out to a neighborhood in the city to do their normal old killing spree. And yeah, if you guys hadn't already noticed, this is 13 plus. This is gonna have some gore context in this story. Just want to point that out ahead of time before we get any further into the story. But they're going on their frequent killings. That's such a weird thing to say. And the pros have gotten glimpses of them, but they always get out. The pros can never capture them. And the bodies that they have, it's either shot up, beaten, chopped up, or either pummeled what seems to be with a bat, or have a chemical injected into them. And Deku's quirk in this universe, he's a virus quirk. Basically, he can create his own viruses in his system, in his body system, and produce them. So he created a virus that would give him superhuman abilities, and it came out as this greenish color. And he took a syringe filled with this virus. Remember, this virus makes him super strong, super fast, and he injects himself with it. And he gives him like 5 of these things. This virus ups his strength and speed immensely. But on one of their annual killing sprees, yeah, X-Virus Deku has really grown accustomed to the creepypastas. They're like family to him because he never really had one. Well, his little group is like family to him. The rest aren't. He's good friends with a lot of creepypastas. That's including Jeff the Killer, Eilish Jack, Laughing Jack, Slender Man. Going through the list, he's friends with most people. But one night, yeah, the group is going on one of their killing sprees. They just go into a random neighborhood in the city, going on their killing sprees. And at every crime scene, the pros find this weird symbol. They always find it at each crime scene of these group, and it's a circle. And it's usually drawn on a wall in red, mostly presumed in blood. And it's a circle with an X through it, which is Slenderman's sign, which is basically their sign because they're the proxies of Slenderman. But again, the group is going on one of their killing sprees, and they actually get captured by the pros. And since they're too young to be sent to jail, they're being sent to the UA's new villain rehab. But that's where I'm going to leave this part off, guys. Yeah, cliffhanger. Make sure to like, subscribe, and I'll see you guys in the next part. Peace. No.